it's important for people to hear both sides of that. Like, you truly don't have to get rid of everything. Just kind of be a little bit more mindful.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go.
Welcome back to today's episode of Leaders of the West. So if you guys listened to last week's episode, you know we sat down with Jena Oschner and we really dug into just ingredients and products and lifestyles and just trying to be more mindful of what we put in and around our bodies and in and around that of our family. So we had such an incredible conversation that we broke this up into 2 parts. So last week, we aired part 1 of this conversation, and today you guys are jumping right into part 2 of this conversation. If this is your first time listening to this series, I highly encourage you guys, take a pause, go back to last week and listen to part 1 of this conversation. Then you'll be primed and ready to go for part 2. But I so enjoy Jena. She is just an absolute gem. And this was such a great conversation to have. We literally talked for 2 hours, which is really saying something when you're talking to one another in what is basically a Zoom screen. So this was an incredible conversation. I have already gotten so much great feedback from last week's episode. You guys are going to love the continuation. So let's get right to it. Part 2. Okay, Tylenol. I have not taken a Tylenol in over a year and a half, or like ibuprofen, any kind of pain medication. I haven't had Diet Coke in that long too.
You go, girl.
And you guys, I also haven't gotten Botox in that long.
Okay, your forehead looks great.
Okay, well, I tell you what, face taping. You're a frownies girl. I just do like traditional face tape.
I've never heard of that.
Yes. Okay, Catherine Roman, Radiance Rebel. She is incredible. I love the line of products that she sells. She is very similar to us, a young mom who just was not happy with the products that she was using. She was wondering, why do I have so much like skin cancer and it's the sun damage so early on? Very young in her career. She's built these incredible products, but she has a face taping guide.
Okay.
It absolutely walks you through all of it. There are videos that accompany it as well. I cannot say enough good things about the products that she has created, and then also her face taping guide. I love it. But yeah, Botox. And I am not against, if you're somebody who you love a Diet Coke and you take Tylenol when you have a headache and you want to get your Botox, girl, go on with your bad self. I have nothing against it. It's just not something that I want to do for me. Botox, though, that was one that I had started getting. Ironically enough, I got it in 2020, in March of 2020, maybe like a week before the world shut down. And I thought, wow, this is great. I have this freshly frozen face, and nobody can see it because I'm supposed to stay in my house. That is wonderful. What a waste of money.
What a waste.
I had probably gotten it, I would say 8 times over the course of from like March 2020 to September of 2024, typically just in my 11th and then in my forehead. One of the things that I had noticed, though, is it created drooping in my forehead, which I did just get the upper blepharoplasty to kind of correct that. But one of the things that I noticed is when I would have Botox, my left eye would twitch, which is so interesting. In theory, it's supposed to do the opposite because it paralyzes the muscle. And then I kind of went into the rabbit hole of...
It's a toxin.
And wasn't it created as like a war type drug at one time, or like a...
I don't remember its origin, but it is like an actual toxin you're inserting into your muscle to paralyze it.
Yes. And so there are also a ton of side effects that it can cause, like anxiety. It can, what is the word that I'm looking for? Basically like drift into other places, go through your lymphatic system, end up in other places.
Yes.
And so just again, kind of in this journey, it was something that I thought, and I also, as I deal with these other health issues that I'm getting these perfect little lab results back for and thinking, well, why am I not feeling great? could it be something like Botox that is causing this because it causes anxiety, which is something that I've been dealing with? Like those types of things that like I kind of had to eliminate everything to then figure out, okay, where are these problems coming from?
When I would get Botox, I did it a few times. I would have a headache for 3 days. The day I got it was awful. And then I'd almost feel like hungover for a few days after. And I finally was like, I am working really hard to clean up my body. Like, why am I like exposing myself to this? So I quit Botox too. I want to talk about Tylenol because I quit Tylenol, especially if you're like me and you have MTHFR. Like it's so bad. Tylenol depletes your glutathione, which your glutathione is what your body needs to like help rid other toxins. It's like what helps your body naturally like bind to stuff and move it out. And when you take Tylenol, it depletes it. So like when your kid gets a fever, if you give them Tylenol, you're going to bring their fever down. But their fever is what their body was using to rid the ick. Like a fever is like a healthy immune response. And then you're suppressing it. And now only are we like suppressing their immune response to get rid of the ick. Now we've also depleted their glutathione, which is what they need to like keep getting the ick out to like it. So then you're like almost staying sicker longer. I am embarrassed to say this, but there was a lot of years where I would take 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol and 800 milligrams of ibuprofen multiple times a day because my headaches were so bad.
So bad. Yeah.
So bad. And so I was taking that stuff constantly. So like it makes sense that I got to the point that I got to where my body was like literally drowning because I had depleted it of so many things. And so Tylenol's a hard no for me. If I do, I will still take ibuprofen on very rare occasions. And you better believe I'm finding the ibuprofen that has no dye in it because that is hard to find.
It totally is.
It's usually the knockoff brands, like Walgreens brand has dye-free ibuprofen. Because what you said about the grocery outlet, a lot of times those like house brands do have better options than the name brands. Marshmallows, I know we haven't talked about dyes yet, and I don't know if you wanted to go there, but
yes,
like marshmallows have blue 1 in them. And
pickles.
Yes,
pickles have dye. Why does a pickle need dye?
I know. It's sickening. But Walmart brand, there's still other crap in marshmallows, but I can let the other crap slide occasionally as long as there's not dye in it. But like Great Value brand does not have dye in their marshmallows. So those house brands do sometimes come in clutch with better options.
They do. I did a Walmart delivery order, and that was something that I needed were pickle chips. And struggling to find pickles that don't have dye. I'm happy to report that the Vlasic, they actually have one
recently
that on
switched.
The label literally says no artificial dyes. And I was like,
that's
wow,
new.
This is fabulous.
I used to love spicy Vlasic pickles, especially when I was pregnant. And then when we started going through this, dye was actually the very first thing that became a hard no extreme. We did go through our pantry and throw all of it away. But that we had a child which I believe I talked about on the first podcast, that had Lyme disease in pans. And like if he were to eat dye, he would have an extreme behavioral reaction to it. Like within minutes, it was almost instant. So that one, dyes did become like 100% hard no for us. And so I do remember Vlasic pickles, even a few years ago, having dye. So it's like very recent that they've gone dye-free, but it's encouraging to see.
It is. It absolutely is. Yes. So dyes are something that we have also done decent at, because again, it is one of those things that I think unless you are reading every single label, you are so unaware of what dyes are in. And again, so innocently, who would actually think that a cucumber, which starts out as green and then gets put in vinegar to become a pickle, is going to have dye in it? Like there are a lot of things that I think that even in my own home that have dye in them that I am just blissfully unaware of. I think it's really easy to think like, okay, well, things that, and again, I'm not saying that a pickle isn't processed. Like I'm not a fool, you guys, but in comparison to something that is literally like highly processed, put in a plastic bag, all of that I think is where we look for those types of things first. But the reality is unless it is on the exterior aisle of the grocery store, and even then, because you can still find pickles in the deli section, but like there are going to be things that we're just unaware of.
I remember learning, because I told you I have a degree in nutrition and exercise science. I remember them talking about how important it is to shop the exterior aisles, like you said. But then even as early married and young mom, I'm like, how could you ever just shop the exterior? But now it's like, I'm there. It's a real thing.
Oh, it totally is. Okay. One of the things though that you touched on was medicine and Tylenol, ibuprofen. This is something that I have not necessarily gotten to yet, but let's talk about how you are addressing common cold, flu, things like that with your children. Because for me, I've never been a cough syrup person. I don't want to give them anything that they don't need. With liquid Tylenol and things of that nature or ibuprofen, we have been dye-free. But what have you been doing when it comes to your kid comes home and they have a sore throat?
Okay. So most of the time, those things are viral. And so there's usually nothing that you can, if you go to the doctor, there's nothing they can really give you that's truly going to help. A lot of times they'll prescribe an antibiotic just in case, but that's like so unnecessary because now you're wrecking the gut microbiome. Most of the antibiotics have dyes in them. It's really hard, especially in rural America, to find a pharmacy that will get you in a dye-free antibiotic for a child. And most of the time it's viral. Even ear infections, majority of the time are viral. And you usually, if you have an ear infection, they'll give you an antibiotic. So with viral things, it really comes down to like treating their symptoms. I use a lot of homeopathy, which that's a whole nother beast of its own. But
this is level 5, you guys.
This is level 5.
This is why Jena gets level 5.
Yes. And I got level 5 because of my child. Like I know like a lot of people in my day-to-day life think I'm extreme. We've been on this for years, but so I think people are starting to realize, but I've always said, if you lived through what we lived through with our child in my home, you would be this way too, because you would have done anything for your child to be better. So Stetson, we do use a homeopath they're in California actually, and they work specifically with kids that have PANS and PANDAS. So he has made incredible strides with his symptoms and everything. So how homeopathy works, they're all things that come from plants. Arnica is a really common one, Arnica montana, that you can find almost anywhere, like Walgreens and Walmart usually have it. And it's used for like pain or bruising or like any sudden trauma, like Arnica is really good. So like if my kids fall and bump their head, I'll just give them Arnica, something like that. I want to explain homeopathy a little bit because it comes from plants and you can't patent a plant. So like actually medical schools back in the early 1900s and 1800s were like schools of homeopathy. Like they were learning how to use these things from nature to heal. And my homeopath always explains it as you're like nudging the immune system in the right way to like, so it can do its thing. And so it takes consistency and it does take like figuring out like with Stetson's specific symptoms, I have to be a very good observer of like what's changing in his body and reporting back to her and then like making the necessary changes. There's a lot of great homeopathic kits on Amazon where like you can just get like very common ones. And there are common ones that you can use for, like you said, a sore throat, a cough, but it's not just like, so say you get the flu and it's like, I have the flu. What homeopathic remedy should I take? They don't work like that because that's like how a pharmaceutical would work. Like, oh, this is the quote unquote medicine for this disease. It's truly symptomatic. So it's like, okay, is your fever a hot or dry fever? Is your skin dry? Are you sweating? Is your drainage green? Is it white? Is it really runny? Is it sticky? Like the homeopathic remedies will kind of be more specific for those things. And the kit that I first bought came with a little pamphlet and it had like all of this stuff in there. Like if you like flu symptoms, cold symptoms, GI symptoms, injury type things. And it would walk through different like remedies to use for different symptoms. I've seen some homeopathic experts, if you will, on Instagram post really great flow charts. And I've saved a lot of those. So then if my kid is sick, I can look at it. Okay, they have this fever.
You share those, I then save them. That is literally how I have found many of them. Continue on.
Perfect. So I used to treat a fever with Tylenol or ibuprofen because it's like, oh no, they have a fever. We need to get it down. But a fever doesn't, like, because I know we're always scared, oh, they might get a seizure if their fever gets too high. It's not I just learned this recently actually because I got really sick during harvest. I had like 104.3 fever and I had texted my provider and I was like, at what point is this alarming? But I had a high fever for a couple of days. And she told me it's not like how high your fever gets, it's how fast it gets there. So if your kid like has a 99, then 100, 101, and it's like just kind of slowly getting
like
there.
Gradual.
It's really like the height of it isn't necessarily alarming. Yes, I would say like 105 is kind of my comfort level. If my kid gets over 105 fever, I'm like, okay, like what are we going to do here? But I'm doing a lot of other things to support their immune system through that. So I'll look into a homeopathic remedy. With fever specifically, you can do the wet sock trick. Have you heard of this?
No.
So like at nap time or at nighttime, and when I was sick, I did this. You take cotton socks, soak them in ice water, and then wring them out and put them on your kid's feet. And then you put wool socks on top of them and then send them to bed. And that helps tremendously with helping them like get through the night with their fever, their body kind of help break its fever, kind of do its thing. Ear infections, there's a lot that like I said, they're mostly viral. Not all of them are. So like, I'm not saying don't ever go to the doctor, but there's just a lot of things that you can support your child at home. There's garlic ear oil. Have you ever used that?
No.
So garlic ear oil is great. If my kid gets an ear infection, which is very rare, Stetson had a few and then he ended up getting tubes. And then we like honestly haven't really had an issue with ear infection since. You can also do like food grade hydrogen peroxide in the ear. You can kind of go every other with the garlic ear oil and the hydrogen peroxide. You can nebulize hydrogen peroxide diluted with water. That's a really great treatment when you've got like congestion and stuff going on. And now this is like level 10, I'm not going to lie, but my husband recently purchased an ozone generator. Do you know what ozone is?
Tell us all.
So oxygen molecules are O2, ozone is O3. There is a ton of research on this. However, this is where I have beef with the FDA. When the FDA wants to try to like control something like ozone or cocoon therapy or something like that, that's where like problems happen. And there was like 10 years of really good research on ozone, like proving that it's literally healing people. It does cure things. It's so beneficial. And something happened with, I'd have to research the more specifics of it, but something happened with the FDA trying to get a hold of it and things weren't done correctly. And like these 10 years of research basically just had to get deleted from the people's websites who were doing them. Ozone, your disease, infection, viruses can't live in an O3 environment. So the ozone will you can put it up our nose, you can put it in your ears, you can make water with it. The water is kind of gross, but anything to feel better, right?
Right.
This is where it gets real extreme, but you can do it rectally, like put it in a bag and then put it in rectally. So my husband bought this because I haven't even really told this full story, but he was really sick at the beginning of this year. Like his labs resembled a cancer patient. He was in super high oxidative stress, which he probably would have eventually ended up with a chronic disease if we hadn't done something about it. He went to our functional medicine place and he did 6 or 8 rounds of, it's called a 10 pass. So they take your blood out, it goes through this hemolumin, it kills all the icky stuff in your blood. They ozonate it, so they're adding the O3 to your blood and then putting it back in, and they do that 10 times. And within six weeks, his labs were drastically improved, and within 3 months, his labs were normal doing this. And our provider was like, if you would show his labs, his labs were bad, she was very concerned about him. To an oncologist or hematologist, they would tell you it's impossible that those labs are from the same person 3 months apart. There's no way that's possible. But with ozone, it is. So ozone is incredible.
Wow. So what exactly because again, this is the first time that I've heard about this. So This is why level 10, right?
Yes.
What exactly is the mechanism that you purchase? Explain this.
It's literally called an ozone generator. There's one called Simply O3. You can literally order it online. There's great podcasts from the Simply O3 guy too that explains it way better than I can. Ours is a longevity. It came from Canada and Levi had to call and order it. But you have to hook oxygen up to it, which, we're farmers, we weld, we have oxygen tanks laying around. And so we just have it in our bathroom. And then the oxygen goes in and then the generator turns it into O3. I don't know exactly how the mechanism works.
Okay.
But O3 molecules are really unstable. So oxygen can stay contained, but O3 is not. So you put it into your body and it goes exactly where it needs to go. But you couldn't just keep bottles of ozone around, if that makes sense, because the molecules are so unstable. They wouldn't remain effective. Even if Levi does a bag of ozone to use rectally or something, you kind of need to use it within a few hours. It's not like we could make it and travel with it or something.
Right. Okay. Kind of on that note of other things, you are also a huge believer in red light therapy and you have a sauna as well, which that's one of the things that I wrote down here. So I am not a sauna person. We don't have access to one. And I don't necessarily I actually hate sweating.
Same.
I've never enjoyed it, but sweating is one of the greatest things that you can do to truly detox your body because that is how you are getting things from the inside out. So if you're somebody who you don't have a sauna, detox baths are the next best thing.
Your water's hot enough, you're going to sweat in it.
Yes, exactly. I really do kind of turn our bathroom into a sauna in the sense that I turn on our, a space heater, get super hot water, Epsom salts with magnesium in them, and then also baking soda. That is a huge unlock as well.
You can add bentonite clay is another good thing. You can add a little scoop of too.
Yep. But that continues to help draw out those types of the toxins that are in our body. And I'm going to tell you guys, we all have toxins. There's nothing that you are not susceptible to just through our everyday lives, unfortunately. As I mentioned earlier, this spring I did a toxin test, and the number of things that I was positive in are things that you would think I wouldn't necessarily even be around. Like one of the components is often found in gasoline, and I am so incredibly high. Well, I fuel up my car, but aside from that, like when am I ever around? It's not like I'm sitting in a fuel truck delivering fuel for people. So just very, very mindful, like my body and Jenna's body, we could be exposed to the exact same things over the 34 years of our lives. But what Jenna is high in may not be something that my body can flush that out just fine. Jenna's can't, or vice versa. So it's just very, very enlightening. But yeah, so sauna.
So we got the sauna because Levi he had those bad labs. He ended up doing a urine tox screen, which was yours a urine test, your tox screen you're talking about?
So yes. So how that worked is I did mine it was my functional provider is the one who requested it. It was through Vibrant Labs, which I think is one of the leaders in toxin testing. And you release toxins over time with your body. Like you take certain things to kind of like stir them around, if you will, so that they are more active, and then you're going to pee them out. So the only two ways to get rid of toxins are you're peeing them out or you are sweating them out. So then you take a urine sample after approximately 7 days of taking these things that are going to kind of stir around the toxin so that you're having the most accurate results in the toxin load that your body is bearing. And then you mail that off, you get your results back.
So we didn't stir anything up, and ours were bad. So I can't imagine.
I can only imagine.
I had done ozone the day that I got mine tested. So she did say that's going to stir up some more things. But Levi's was bad, and he was really high in mold, which we had been exposed to mold because actually 10 years ago we found mold in the old farmhouse we were supposed to live in, tore it down because it was like the Stachybotrys, the worst kind of mold there is. They said they've never seen it that high. It could kill somebody under the age of 6 in a matter of days. That's like a whole nother story. We didn't think anything of it. Like we got rid of the house. We built a new house on the old foundation. We tested our house for mold before we finished our basement a few years ago. Like we felt really good about our house. Not really considering like what we had been exposed to and how your mold's hard to get rid of. And if your lymphatic system is junk like mine was, you can't get rid of it. So I had done that 10-pass ozone I explained, and my chest would burn really bad, and then I would get a cough for a few days following it. And she said that burning chest is kind of a telltale sign of mold. Anyways, Levi does the tox screen, and there's mold in his. And we kind of chalked it up to the molds that he'd be exposed to farming, like whether it's in a grain bin or in a field at the end of the season. That's what we kind of chalked it up to. And then he had glyphosate and atrazine in his urine as well, which alarming because they're chemicals. We have used them as farmers. We are working really hard to use less and less chemicals and remediate our soils and doing a lot of things that way. But with conventional farming, you do have to use those things to produce a crop at some point. And so I was like, well, I'll take the test and I'll be the control because I never set foot in the sprayer. I'm never around the chemicals. And I haven't been in the grain bins in the fields like you have with the mold. My screen was 3 times worse than his was. And so that kind of goes to show what you just explained, how everybody's body is so different. Levi can detox better than I can. I never used to sweat. In high school sports, I remember being I never sweat. I'm just such a princess. I just don't sweat. I'm just a dainty little girl. But it's so bad that your body's not sweating. So bad.
No, it totally is.
Our provider told us the best way to get rid of these toxins is to sweat them out. So we literally bought a sauna on the way home that day, out of pure desperation. It's not what we wanted to spend our money on that year, but it was if we're going to get our life back and not end up with cancer in a few years, we need to turn some things around. So that's why we bought the sauna this January, so we could start sweating all that junk out. And it took me weeks of sitting in a sauna regularly before I started sweating. And I would dry brush and try to do all the lymphatic things. I don't have a vibrating plate yet, which some of my friends got one on Black Friday. I'm considering one.
I have a rebounder. Not that I use it as often as I should. In case you're what is a rebounder? It's like a mini trampoline. And just physically the act of jumping for 10 minutes, especially first thing in the morning, that kind of gets your lymphatic system. It wakes it up. It gets things moving and draining, especially if you're drinking lots of water. Electrolytes. What are you doing for electrolytes? I use Redmond salt, and about every other day. I don't do it a ton because obviously there are things that even the best of the best in salt too much salt is not great for your kidneys. And so there's definitely a fine line there, especially for somebody like me who I need to be very careful with that. So I will do red mint salt usually like every other day, every third day, just to kind of make sure that I'm not overdoing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we love Element, and I know like there were some things that surfaced around Element. People were freaking out about the maltodextrin that they were using as a sweetener, which is a corn-based product, and yada, yada, yada. And we love Element. I've tried a lot of electrolytes, and I do like that flavor the best. I'm on this cleanse right now, so I'm not doing anything out of a package. And so I've just been doing a little squeeze of fresh lemon and Redmond real salt, and then adding some like trace minerals in my water. And I actually really like that. This part is going to be interesting because my functional provider, they sell Element, and she addressed when all of this drama about Element came out last year. And she said she prefers Element because a lot of other electrolytes use stevia as a sweetener. And like she's worn a continuous blood glucose monitor, and stevia always spikes her blood sugar. And so she's like, I'm sticking with this maltodextrin based sweetener because I'm not getting the blood sugar spike. Like I'd rather drink this and control my blood sugar rather than have. So that she kind of said it really depends on the person, on what your body reacts to the best and like how you handle different things. Like she didn't want like one electrolyte to be demonized just because they use a different sweetener. Because for her, that's what worked better. Have you noticed with your blood sugar any that make a difference?
That is a great question. I will say it is harder for somebody like me to notice what is a true blood sugar spike versus what is me not having given enough insulin, or like, did I give my insulin 10 minutes before I ate versus 20 minutes before I ate versus 5 minutes after I ate. So it is really hard. I feel like somebody who does not have diabetes who then wears a continuous glucose monitor, they are definitely the most true like test case, if you will, because I have so many elements and factors.
For sure. I also think what the FDA says is like recommended salt. I don't think that's true. I think most people do need a lot more sodium, a lot more electrolytes. And it's important to, like with Element and some other electrolytes, like they have the potassium and the magnesium in them too. And that's important. I think Liquid IV is starting to clean up their product a little bit, but they didn't really have the other electrolytes, just sodium. But then there was also a lot of sugar. So that's where it comes down to reading a lot of ingredient labels too. Some, like I had one at a bar once. I was like, I'll just buy this electrolyte packet because I don't drink alcohol anymore either. And then I looked at the back of it and there's folic acid in it. So you got to be careful.
You never know. No, you truly never know.
So I told you we cut dyes for our children, for our whole family. But then I was letting Stetson drink Body Armor instead of Gatorade or something. We were still having a lot of issues. And she was like, I think there's folic acid in Body Armor. So there's just lots of weird places you'd find stuff that we've learned the hard way.
No, there totally are. So we've been here for almost an hour and a half now. People are probably going to get tired of listening to us. One thing, though, that I do want to, kind of the next thing that I want to get to, though, is we have talked about swaps that we've made.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the opposite. What are things that in this quest of you truly cannot live a toxin-free lifestyle, and I am totally okay with these things in my life for the time being? Like, what are the things that you are not as concerned about now or that you've kept around?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's important for people to hear both sides of that. Like, you truly don't have to get rid of everything. Just kind of be a little bit more mindful.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not scared of sugar, especially if it's just pure cane sugar. I know some people do like no sugar in their kids' diet, but I'm really not scared of it because we do eat pretty healthy. And I do try to encourage my kids, like, well, if you won't eat a carrot or a cheese stick, you're maybe not that hungry for that fruit snack. Because like my kids still get fruit snacks. We still have candy in our pantry, but it's just a cleaner version of that. And I know a lot of people have told me like, well, oh, my kids would never eat that. Well, if it's not in your house, and this is the other option, like kids are so resilient and adaptable, way more so than adults.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's one thing. Fruit snacks, I let them eat that. A lot of dentists, especially biological dentists, which we didn't even get into that, will say like crackers are like, they call them cavity crackers because crackers are almost worse than like juice or pop for your teeth because they get into the little crevices
in between the teeth, and you have to. The only way to get it out is to floss. We have struggled with that with our children.
So I did not eliminate crackers. For like my kids will still eat like cheese and crackers, meat and crackers. I'm not scared of that. You go and let me think of, I know there's more, but I got to think of them.
I know. I'm trying to think. Okay. Well, I mentioned one earlier as far as I think I've switched over the majority of things like lotions or things of that nature, shampoos. One app that has really been helpful for me is the EWG's Healthy Living app. So you can put your products in there and then it shows kind of on a scale of 1 to 10 where they're at. For me, if a product in our house currently is a 5 to a 10, which is middle of the road to not great, then I get rid of it. If it is if it's a 1 to 5, I think, okay, it's not a right now. It's a, once I get rid of the 5 to 10s, then I'm going to circle back, if you will, and maybe look for better options for things of that nature. So that's kind of been my guiding principle, just as far as when it comes to new products. So shampoos, things like that, we've switched over.
Dry shampoo, that's one for me.
Yep.
I do have some, like a Tubes & Co. dry shampoo that's a powder you can put in your hair and it's clean. But sometimes you just need to spray the dry shampoo in your hair. So I do still have dry shampoo that is not perfect.
So the hair products are the one for me that, as far as like a heat protectant. That was the last
thing for me to try to like tackle.
Yeah, a heat protectant. I have never found one that is a non-toxic version that I feel like works very well. So I still use one, R&Co chainmail, that I like. I know it's not great, but it's one of those few products. Same with, I mentioned foundation. One of the other reasons, and again, I don't want to go too long-winded in this, but one of the other reasons that I was really passionate about making this change is after I had Jackson, after both of my pregnancies with both of our children, I had random things. After Jackson, I had shingles. I also ended up with a contact dermatitis occurring on my eyelid. And one of the things that I wore were fake nails and fake lashes, and like the kind that you would literally like press on nails and, you know, like a strip lash. So I got rid of all of those out of my life. And then randomly that contact dermatitis would continue to come up and I could never figure out why. So I did some allergy testing, and just some product removal nail polish was one of the reasons that I would get contact dermatitis. So I have switched over to a brand called Zoya, and they're a non-toxic.
I've never heard of this.
A non-toxic nail polish. Yep. And then the other thing was the self-tanner that I use. Let me tell you guys, I am as white as a styrofoam cup. So I do need a self-tanner in my life. Isle of Paradise, their drops, like the body tanning drops, that is what I have found to be the most non-toxic, or like the cleanest product out there. And so I have switched over to that. But that was one of the reasons that I was just very mindful and aware. That being said, when we were in Vegas a couple of weeks ago for NFR, I ended up wearing some strip lashes, didn't have any problems with it. Obviously, I know that you're basically, like, lash glue is super glue. You're putting super glue on your eye. Your eyelid is one of the thinnest skins that you have on your body. It is not great. Am I going to do it every single day of the year like I used to? Absolutely not. Did I do it every day for 5 days? Yes. Is it probably the best choice? No, but I feel okay about it because I'm not.
That's truly in moderation.
Yes. But yeah, nail polish has a ton of terrible products in it, formaldehydes, different things like that.
I have not given up pedicures, and I know like everything they use at a pedicure. I usually get a headache when I get a pedicure because of artificial fragrance, because there's not much of any artificial fragrance in my home. I've always been sensitive to it because of my headache, so I always didn't use much anyways. But that's another thing. I got to go get a pedicure every few months.
Yep. So Zoya is the brand that I use for that. So there's some things like just being mindful. I think it's something that so many people are definitely well aware of. But again, don't necessarily know, well, where should I start? Is it in the kitchen? Is it in my home? I need to get rid of everything. There's no
Baby
possible
steps.
way. Exactly.
I still wear Lululemon plastic leggings too.
Yes.
I have not gotten on the natural legging train.
I was going to say, well, and even in clothing, right? Like there is no way, and I love wool and cotton, don't get me wrong, but that is a whole other ball game that's just water I'm not going to wade into in the time being. I'm worried about these other elements of my life. Maybe first. I'm never going to say never. I have learned that, maybe 5-10 years down the road we'll get there, but maybe we won't. Who knows?
Yeah. My functional medicine provider always says there's a lot of free things you can do. You can get sunshine every day. You can go walk barefoot in the grass. You can do some deep breathing. You can pray. You can practice gratitude. You can make sure that the air you're breathing in your home and that your water you're drinking is clean. Like we did have to get an RO system for our water. We had to, because we had nitrates because of, the nitrogen in our area. So there's like really good basic things that you're exposed to every day that you can start with that are like start there and then baby step into the things that Jessie and I have gone into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also say one thing, and I think this is a lot of people's fear or hesitation, is it can be expensive. And you are right. Like the toxin testing that I did through Vibrant Wellness, I think it was like $350. It's not something that or maybe it was even more than that. It's not something that I necessarily want to have to do every 6 months. Thankfully, I probably won't. I would probably do it once every few years just to kind of see like, has this improved? Has it not improved?
Right.
Because my result, the glyphosate was the thing that was the most alarming result in mine. She said she's never seen a level higher than mine in any of her patients.
Did we compare ours? I can't remember.
We did, I think. And because my atrazine was really low compared to yours. But anyways, so one of the things that I did was I tested our well water just to make sure that there wasn't some sort of, Jenny, you're going to have to help me with words. They're hard today.
Yeah.
But basically wasn't
like
some
contamination.
Sort of, exactly. Because we live in the middle of a number of farm fields. We live very low on a valley floor. So obviously like common sense tells us drainage, things of that nature. Our well water could be the problem. We ended up doing well water testing. It was wildly expensive, but our results came back perfect.
Did you test it for atrazine and glyphosate?
We did, yes. And those levels came back.
I've had a hard time finding a place that will test that for us. We have not tested our well.
I'll give you the material when we're done because I'm going to have to go look back through my email to find where I did that. But there are things like that I feel great knowing that I've ruled that out as a problem. It was definitely expensive, but it gives me peace of mind to know that the water that our family is drinking, showering in, doing everything with our lives, like that is great. So there are things like that I'm definitely willing to invest in because I know the result is knowledge and it's going to give us great information. But I think that goes back to don't feel like you have to do everything all at once.
Right.
There are definitely ways that you can do it to be very financially savvy while also putting you and your family and your health first.
I agree.
Okay, well, I am so excited that we got to sit down and chat about this today. I feel like this is going to have to be a kind of a recurring theme every now and then. However, that being said, you and your co-host, Mary Pat Sass, have an incredible podcast over at Beyond the Crops.
Yes.
You have not touched on that or Farm Wife Tallow. If you guys are looking for a incredible cooking swap or body swap, Farm Wife Tallow is where it's at.
It's really clean ingredients. It's tallow. The skin stuff, I'm kind of in charge of developing those products and I make sure there's like nothing, no artificial fragrance. It's literally like tallow, jojoba oil, essential oil, super clean. And yeah, Mary Pat and I like to yap about all the things over at Beyond the Crops.
So you guys definitely go add that podcast to your list. I know you guys are going to love it. We'll be back next week. Brand new episode of the show. Cannot wait to share that with you guys. Jenna, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure you'll be back again.
I hope so.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.